Where do I even start? Spider-Man 2 the movie game hits home for me, and I remember playing it when I was really young. The game had felt super massive, and for as much as I enjoy the game now, I actually hated Spider-Man 2 the movie game as soon as I got it. Yeah, it's true. The reason being is that a lot of little kids who picked up a controller for the first time just simply pushed buttons and expected good things to happen. Spider-Man 2 required a little more thinking than I had at the time with my 5 to 6 year old brain. So of course, the game felt super hard and difficult to master. But if anything, as the years slowly went on, the learning curve was finally picking up on me. I wasn't good at the web swinging or even fighting during the combat portions, and I certainly wasn't doing good enough to save civilians and make it to the crime scenes on time. The constant failure of not properly fulfilling the duties of becoming Spider-Man really got to me. So, what did I do instead of putting down the controller? I practiced till I got better at each and every portion of the game, making me not only a better Spider-Man that could move, punch, and breeze through the city, but my enjoyment for a childhood video game grew stronger. Hey Nostalgics, I've been wanting to talk about Spider-Man 2 the movie game for a long time now, nearly 18 years since this came out, so let's see if after all this time, the nostalgic video game for me holds up. Spider-Man 2's story revolves around the roots of its movie counterpart, with Peter Parker struggling to find a real balance between human and superhuman responsibilities, with constantly comparing his life to his two best friends, Mary Jane and Harry Osborn. MJ has her acting, and Harry is running Oscorp. His best friends are successful and carrying out the better lives than with Peter, who's a struggling photographer at the Daily Bugle and always runs late to every plan for any real normal life activities. The story also brings in Otto Octavius, the well-known science genius who's creating a research on bringing the power of the sun in a more sustainable and readily available way. You also see that beyond the more movie-like moments, Spider-Man 2 also adds in several key characters and plot points that work surprisingly well. It adds more layer and depth centered around unique what-if characters like Rhino and Black Cat, Mysterio, and even Shocker, whom work really well with Tobey's character and doesn't fray from still being a video game. Now, the game's open world was the first of its kind for any Spider-Man video game, so you must be wondering how that feels. Like I previously said, a lot of the game's aspects needed some real learning and practice before you could truthfully get a taste of how good the game can really be. Swinging through the city has Spider-Man launching his webs at buildings, making Spider-Man feel like a real pendulum, unlike in Marvel's Spider-Man. Depending on what height you either attempt to press the swing button at, will enable Spider-Man to gain enough momentum and speed to keep that traversal feeling good, or suddenly falling flat in seconds. I can see why this could get frustrating for you, for what it feels like you're pressing the swing button at right moments, but not connecting or chaining a good rhythm together might make this version of swinging through New York less fun and more of a chore. Easy Swing is available if you choose, which should set the player up a little more properly if getting around the game without a serious learning curve is what you want. But yet again, it still might require a little work to keep it going, but Spider-Man can also wall run, shoot double webs, web zip, and bounce off of walls in the game as well. Now, for the combat. The Spidey store, which lets you buy upgrades for Spider-Man, offers ways to pull off combos and hard-hitting moves against thugs. Spidey has spider reflexes. In a slow-motion fashion, indicators pop up with red circles to let you know when to dodge, but also enables a slightly altered mode to pull off unique combat moves that can't be performed otherwise. For the most part, the combat feels okay. I think if you run to the Spidey store to gloss over the button inputs of various moves, you can have some fun if you really try, but some enemies require you to yank their weapons or web blast them if they suddenly become too stubborn, forcing you to not simply punch and dodge all the time, but even when you center towards pummeling an enemy, it still leaves you open to be knocked out from the side like a punching bag, so just be careful. The activities in the game are spanned between walking up to civilians who are in need of Spidey's help with a green question mark above their head, or a purple mark in the surrounding area to indicate an active crime happening. Blue markers are basically challenges and races that you can pull off. There's also dates with MJ to rush over to, Daily Bugle tasks as well. With anything between an armored car holdup, a police and criminal shootout, saving a person from a falling building, or swinging an injured civilian to the hospital, I'd say variety for feeling like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is here. And on top of that,
I got a bunch of pizzas to deliver and you're late. Always, you are late. Well, now you have to hurry. Get going.
No problem.
Don't
you can count on me.
pizza time.
Just in time. I'm starving.
You made it. Right on time.
Man, I'm really behind. I have to hurry.
Just in time.
Hard to resist doing aerial acrobatics, but the pizza won't survive if I'm not careful. Ugh, this is really bad. Those pizzas must be liquefied by now. Oh boy, I have a bad feeling about the condition of these pizzas. It's gonna be a miracle if those pizzas are even recognizable anymore. I can't believe it. I lost the bag.
Touching up on some of the more personal events that happen exclusively in the movie game, Black Cat is a very memorable part of the title's story and gameplay. She not only acts as a thievious, sly-like individual and being a criminal at best, but she gets Spider-Man to take his mind off of his normal life issues time and time again.
I don't have time to talk. I need to have a word with the publisher of the Daily Bugle.
Well, I'm sure that bursting into the Bugle offices and yelling will clear everything up. All I'm saying is, you may want to calm down. You seriously need to loosen up. Have more fun. You're a superhero. You swing through New York City in brightly colored tights.
You run after her by participating in Black Cat chases and making sure you don't lose her in the process, while also having very unique moments from time and time again. She dupes you, and she leaves Spider-Man feeling mixed about her actions heavily, but she's really great for being that person that needs to remind him to just let loose. Rhino makes a sudden but quick cameo as a boss fight as he's carrying a deadly explosive with him and causes a disturbance downtown. Strong, but dumb. And oh yeah, Mysterio, or Quentin Beck, decides to publicly call out Spider-Man as well. He has you go through a game show to test if whether or not you're a fraud, and you publicly humiliate him in the process. He suddenly decides to enact mass revenge on not only those who made him feel like a joke, but to get back at Spider-Man by lighting an entire theater on fire, taking over the Statue of Liberty. Like, how do you even do that? And even inviting you into his fun house of doom. On a quick personal note, I remember coming back home from 2nd grade on a Friday night, and just when the game took a left turn and had an entire chapter based on this Mysterio invasion, it blew my mind, and every time I revisit it, I'll always remember when little me was just so scared of those killer clowns that were jumping my way, and I had to stop Mysterio from mind-controlling Lady Liberty with an alien brain. If stopping Mysterio all those times wasn't enough action for you, then oh boy, you're gonna love this.
I require large amounts of your currency.
Sure, Space Dude, whatever you say. Just don't disintegrate me or whatever.
How low the mighty have fallen.
You dare to challenge the infinite light of Mysterio? I will destroy you utterly. You will bear witness to the majesty and glory of my power. Prepare to die. Doom today!
Whoa! That was sick, dude!
So powerful, right? Last is Shocker. He manages to sneak away after the game show back at the arena with Quentin Beck, and you team up with Black Cat to stop him in 2 really cool boss fights. The first one is in a hideout where he gets the best of Black Cat, making her look sadly humiliated and weak. But then a round 2 comes up at an old Oscorp lab where Cat and Spidey need to remove his force field, making him invincible, but defeating him in the process. With these big moments taking place within Spider-Man 2, it also brings back its full attention to the main story beats. Otto has a demonstration that leads to his sustainable energy source going crazy, injuring not only him, but killing his wife alongside it. MJ is also getting married, which leaves Peter feeling unsure about his life choices, and Harry makes it clear that he wants Spider-Man for what he did to his dad, Norman Osborn. Otto completely turns when his mechanical arms become a part of him and allows him to go mad. He is not only rebuilding his failed work, but seeks Spider-Man in return for tritium to his rebuilt project. Peter then tries to make it clear to MJ, despite not realizing that she's getting married, Peter wants to be with Mary Jane. But she has to decline since, she's getting married after all. And parts of Peter's unresolved issues with feeling less than his friends becomes a lesson he slowly overcomes when he makes it clear to Black Cat that with his great power comes great responsibility to uphold.
My powers came with a responsibility, and I need the balance of a normal life. Being Spider-Man is who I am, but being just me, that's who I am too.
Otto throughout the endgame puts the lives of Aunt May, Mary Jane, and various civilians on a non-stop high-speed subway train in danger, time in and time again. After successfully capturing Spider-Man for Harry, Otto makes his rounds to the final stages of his project, and it becomes clear to Harry that Peter was Spider-Man all along, leaving him unsettled. Pete then rushes to save MJ, but gets unmasked by Otto's tentacles, revealing himself to MJ in the process. With the city destined to be destroyed with how dangerous the energy sources become, we stop Otto from taking everything down and snap some sense of humanity back into him. In a quick fashion and in a heroic sacrifice, Otto is engulfed by the destruction of his failed science project and warehouse, and clears up any heated tension and disdain between himself and Spider-Man. This leaves Peter with coming clean about wanting to tell MJ sooner that he was Spider-Man. But realizing the danger that it could cause, Peter does the right thing, and that's not wanting MJ to be as involved in his life now that she knows. But in a turn of events, MJ understands the risks of what being Peter's loved one may bring to him at this stage of the game, accepting him for what he is and for the man he's become, but knowing he has a responsibility to tend to. And that, my friends, is Spider-Man 2, the movie game. I think the main selling point for many who grew up with this game was simply getting lost in what felt like the biggest, most expansive open world sandbox that you could strive to become Spider-Man in. There's obviously many other candidates that fill this spot beyond Spider-Man 2, the movie game, but the charm and elements that comprise and create the game for what it's worth? So many people love this game to death. Far from perfect, but enjoyed a whole lot. And I'm thankful I was able to talk about it today.